Fall River City Council public hearings will now be called to order. Madam Clerk.
Councilors Kadim,
Here.
Joseph Kamara,
Here.
Stephen Kamara,
Here.
Kilby,
Here.
Lullaby LeBeau. Here. Long, Pelletier,
Here.
Viveras.
Here.
President Ponti.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. First item before us is curb removals from Cindy Doan of 177 Nashua Street, Unit 2, requests the removal of curbing at 19 Marble Street. The petitioner is requesting the removal of additional 11 feet of curbing to the west side of the property to provide an additional off-street parking space. 19 Marble has an existing 17-foot, 8-inch driveway opening on the east side of the property. The proposed work adds one off-street parking space and reduces on-street parking marginally. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Motion to open the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Council Vice President LeBeau. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any proponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all proponents wishing to speak. Hearing none. Is there any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all opponents. Hearing none. Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Motion to close the public hearing has been made by Councilor Pelletier, seconded by Councilor Kadim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 2 is Harry Leachman of 966 Ray Street requests the removal of curbing as follows. The petitioner is requesting the removal of an additional 16 feet of curbing on the south side of the property to provide horseshoe access to the front door of the property. 966 Ray Street has an existing 14-foot, 8-inch driveway opening on the north side. The proposed work improves access to the property and does not affect on-street parking in that area.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Council Vice President LeBeau. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any opponents, proponents wishing to speak on this? Calling all proponents wishing to speak on this item. Hearing none. Is there any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Call all opponents. Hearing none.
Motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Council Vice President LeBeau. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3, Yon P. Luang of 539 Stafford Road requests the removal of curbing as follows. The petitioner is requesting the removal of an additional 8 feet of curbing to the north side of the existing 12-foot driveway opening. The proposed work improves access to off-street parking serving the property. There is no street parking, so no on-street parking is on-street parking is not affected. Is there a motion to open? Motion to open the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any proponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all proponents wishing to speak on this item. Hearing none. Is there any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Calling all opponents. Hearing none. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to close the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by
Second.
Council Vice President LeBeau. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4 is a public hearing, proposed amendment to the Central Market Rate Housing and Incentive Zone and Plan for the former Lincoln School located at 439 Pine Street. Motion to open.
So moved.
Motion to open the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Calling all proponents wishing to speak on this item. Proponents. Are you here just right after she's done? Sure. Right after she's done. Right after she's done.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to appear before you at this public hearing to speak in favor of the proposed amendment to the Central H-DIP zone. The Central Market Rate Housing Zone was previously approved by the Fall River City Council back in 2013, and this is essentially amending that plan to include the parcel of land at 439 Pine Street, the former Lincoln School. As you're aware, the project is intended to convert a former school building into 22 market rate housing units. Clearly, market rate housing has become a priority in that it's designed to diversify the housing stock that's available within the community, stabilize neighborhoods, as well as create economic development benefits associated therewith. This particular project will create 22 of those market rate housing units. They will allow the developer, once the zone is in fact, the amendment is approved by the Department of Housing and Community Development, it will then allow the city to consider a tax increment exemption for the developer as well. The project is moving forward. It clearly is a financially challenging project, and I know that the owner is intending to take advantage of state and federal historic tax credits. The HDIP incentive is effectively allowing 10% of the qualified project expenses for the rehabilitation to generate tax credits not to exceed $2 million. And again, the market rate housing has to be at least 80% of the units and may in fact be 100% of the units, as I understand is the intent of the developer. It is an economic tool, something that is specifically designed for gateway cities, of which Fall River is, and to provide the gateway cities with yet an additional opportunity to create this kind of development within their communities. We can certainly entertain any questions, although for the benefit of the public hearing, I would appreciate your favorable consideration in this regard.
Thank you very much, Madam City Administrator. Any further proponents wishing to speak on this? Come on down. State your name and address for the record, please. Right when you get down to the table. See right there.
My name is Anthony Gudis. I'm a consultant working with the project. I live in Providence, Rhode Island. I just wanted to state everything that was said so far was actually said perfectly. I think it's a great project. It's an important project to the developer. He actually went to school himself at this location. He'd love to see the project get redeveloped. The project cannot get developed without the federal and state tax incentives. These are all part of the financing for the project. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a project that's very complementary to the neighborhood. I think it's going to be great for Fall River, and we please ask you to go ahead and allow this project to be within the HDIP zone so we can attain the credits, so we can move forward and develop this project in accordance with historic standards and have a good project on our hands.
Thank you. Any further proponents wishing to speak on this? State your name and address for the record, please.
Joshua Silva, 325 Pine Street. Here to speak in favor of the project. I've lived in that neighborhood for about 15 years now, and I think the school's been empty for about 10 years, so it's kind of been a blight on the neighborhood. There's a retaining wall that's been crumbling for a while. There's some fencing around, and I think the developer's proposing a nice project instead of just filling the building with low-income apartments, as many as he can fit in there. He wants to put in some high-end apartments. They're going to replace the windows in the school so that it kind of looks like the new windows that were put in at the vet center to give it the historic look, the half-round windows, and basically the inside's going to be, brought up to the, historical, restore it. So basically, I'm in favor. Like I said, I'm in the neighborhood. I think it's going to be a great addition. It's 2 blocks from the streetscape project. It's going to tie right into that in the downtown. So I think it would be a great idea for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Any further proponents wishing to speak on this? Calling all proponents. Hearing none. Any opponents wishing to speak on this item? Any opponents? Hearing none. Motion to close the public hearing has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Kadim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
The finance will now be called to order, Madam Clerk.
Councilors Kadim. Joseph Kamara.
Here.
Stephen Kamara.
Here.
Kilby.
Here.
Lullaby LeBeau.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Pelletier.
Here.
Viveras.
Here.
President Ponti.
Here, pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. First item before us is citizens' input. First person set up to speak is Grace Gerling, 45 Rock Street, regarding CPA funding. Also joined by Paul Fagioli of 45 Rock Street regarding CPA funding as well. 3 minutes each.
Good evening, councilors. As you know, my name is Grace Gerling. I'm the Executive Director of Greater Fall River Recreation. I'm here to speak on our CPA emergency funding application for a new boiler system for our current facility, which is the old 2nd District Courthouse that we purchased back in 2015. We have currently invested close to $500,000 in improvements of the facility. We will be, within the next week, installing a sprinkler system. And with the installation of the sprinkler system, I have been notified that the old side of the building, unfortunately, our boiler system that is currently in the building does not work due to deterioration over the years with the building not being occupied on that side. We are installing a wet system for the sprinkler system, and we need heat in that side of the building. So that is why we applied for the emergency funding application through CPA.
Paul Fagioli, 45 Rock Street, Vice President for Recreation. I'm just calling to ask for your support for the project. It's gone through CPA already. We're in the process of restoring that building, and it does have some historical significance. So we're just looking for your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next person to sign up to speak is Erica Scott, 187 Pittman Street, regarding the water deal and leadership.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Erica Scott. I reside at 187 Pittman Street in the Flint. I'm here to thank all of you for your unanimous resolutions against our city's bad water deal and really congratulate you for your leadership. I don't know if you heard, it was in the paper last week, but I don't know how popular water board meetings are. The water board, for the first time publicly, stated that they were not in favor of renewing the contract. This is really great news. I think that without your unanimous resolutions and leadership in this area, we probably would not have had the outcome of last week's meeting. With that said, I do want to note that the contract, as Assistant Corporation Counsel Gary Howiak noted, is actually not for 3 years, as you, the council, and we, the public, were first informed. It's for 3 years after the plant opens. So that right now is 2021. If you, the council, we, the people of Fall River, and the water board are all against renewing this deal, then why are we staying in this bad deal? So I really hope that you can use whatever influence you have, and I ask the people of Fall River to likewise contact the water board, and let's see what we can do about this. The Narragansett Indian tribe got out of their bad deal, and we can do the same. So thank you again for your leadership. I appreciate the strength you showed and your work on behalf of the people of Fall River on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie Bello, 510 Northeastern Avenue, regarding the Lincoln School. Yeah, and then number of other individuals coming down. Just state your name and address for the record. It's okay, 3 minutes each. It's okay. No worries.
Tony, go ahead.
Good evening, councilors. Tony Duarte, 114 Winter Street in Fall River. We're here before you again tonight to ask you to approve the HDIP that's to be voted on tonight for the Lincoln School on Pine Street. We are highly in favor of the project. As the Mr. Hilbert presented it to the neighborhood, I was really pleased with what he's going to go forward with the Lincoln School. He's keeping it as much as possible to the original state, keeping the historical look both outside and inside, keeping the stairways the way they are, the size of the hallways, and I was really pleased with the presentation that he gave us. So I would ask that you support our neighborhood and that particular area of Pine Street, which is adjacent to my home on Winter Street. So I think it's going to be good for our neighborhood, and it will be a step forward to minimize the housing that we have currently in the city and move us in a new direction. So I thank you for your time, and please, approve the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
Paul Fagioli, 275 High Street. I have an office located in the neighborhood. We have toured the building and the renovations that Mr. Hebert has proposed, and we just think that it'll be an asset to the area. Currently being empty and unutilized and kind of in the state of overgrown, I think anything will be a great improvement. But his proposal, I think, will really benefit the neighborhood. And we just hope that you support his HDIP so that he can move forward.
Thank you.
Natalie Mello. As you all, majority of you know, we've been fighting absentee landlord, drugs, prostitution, and so on, not to get into all that. If Dave Hebert says what he's going to do, the majority of the neighborhood 100% agrees with him. I know the HDIP is a critical part to this project for the market rate apartments or units. As you know, they want, it's 12 one-bedrooms, 9 two-bedrooms, and 1 3-bedrooms. The Lincoln School has been closed since 2009, and it's time. We just want to make sure we have no more housing in the neighborhood. We are surrounded. We've been fighting for years and years and years to keep our quality of life in our neighborhood. We've worked very hard. We continue to work hard. Nothing stops us. And pray that he follows through on what he says. He seems to be very sincere. He says he loves the neighborhood. Streetscapes is a big deal, and that's right there with streetscapes. So I would hope that he would not hurt any, like our mayor, who's worked very hard on the streetscapes, and you guys all voted on the streetscapes. So that would be a plus if everything he says he's going to do, he follows through. I think we'll be good.
Councilor C7, Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you. As far as Mr. Hebert goes, he's bought the Diamond School, hasn't done anything with it. And, tonight, he's got this on the agenda. He's lucky he's got people like you over here to speak for him. But actually, he should be here tonight as well. And, it scares me. I know you guys want to see something nice up there, but, when you hear them and you hear the things that may go on, and some of you's got reservations tonight, whether or not he's going to do it. He's done nothing with the other piece of property, and he's waiting for this to do it. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna support it because of the neighborhood. But I'm scared, I don't like it, and I don't like the boat, but I'll give it to him. And if he's hearing tonight, he better do what he said he's gonna do, because this is a lousy vote for me. But I'm doing it for the people in the neighborhood. That's the only thing. And he's gotta get up with things. You buy the property, you just leave it there, nothing happens. This thing's been dragging and dragging. We'll see how long it takes to get things done. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions? Councilor in seat 3, Councilor Kamara.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce my colleague in seat 7, and I do this with the understanding and the sensitivity, and I shared this with the city administrator earlier today, that we understand the very sensitive situation that exists in Mr. Hebert's ownership, not only of this property, but in the former Diamond School on Hotwell Street, former Sylvia School, as it was eventually called, and also the Elks Building downtown across from Tequila Line. I too share the frustration that while we want to see success, I know that one of the visions that was talked about on Hotwell Street was a boutique hotel and a commercial kind of property. What's been talked about at the Lincoln School is market rate and upscale housing. What's been talked about on Streetscapes project at the old Elks Hall is a totally revitalized building. And yet, we're not really seeing improvements. So I too am very much involved in this neighborhood. I've made great investment over the last 40 years in this neighborhood, so I do want to see the investment in the Lincoln School. So I too am going to support this project. But I guess I just want to put it out on the record that that Mr. Hebert needs to move forward on the projects that he's invested in, so that we can see some of the concrete improvements that have been promised us, so that we're not just taking home lots of promises, that we are actually taking home some significant improvements, and I look forward to those improvements. But I will be supporting, and particularly because of you who are sitting at the table now, and I will support the proposal that's before us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, I yield.
Well, I think the H-dip, I guess, is a big asset to this project. If he doesn't get it, then it's not going to be a good thing. If he gets it, then supposedly it's going to be a great thing. I've also lived in the neighborhood since 1971, so there's a lot of pride there. We work very hard in that neighborhood. So he says, he talks about it with his wife. They seem, when they're talking about it, they seem that they have pride, that they want to make a big deal of this piece of property. So crossing our fingers and do a couple of Hail Marys that everything will go into plan, and hopefully he'll succeed and we'll all succeed, and our quality of life in the neighborhood will continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next person assigned to speak is Sean Connell, 45 Rock Street, CPA funding. 3 minutes.
Hello. My name is Sean Connell. I work at 45 Rock Street, and I'm also a resident of Fall River for my entire life. I live at 219 Purchase Street. And I'm here to lend my support to Grace Gerling and the CPA funding initiative that we are working on. It's not just recreation that's going to benefit from this boiler. I actually work for 2 different programs in that building that would greatly benefit from that boiler and that extra space that would create. So Youth Build's already kind of an overlooked program. I work with kids who've dropped out of school, who are 16 to 24 years old. And I've never come before the City Council to request funds. We're really heavily reliant on our partnership and our really important ally with recreation. So these city funds are really needed for our programs and for the city. And then when you think there's not any more programs, I also run a program called School on Wheels Massachusetts, which is a small nonprofit that actually helps mentor homeless kids within city recreation. And we're actually growing because the homeless population of Fall River continues to grow. So that space is incredibly important, and without the boiler, we can't be in that space. The CPA committee already approved this. The space is really going to enrich these opportunities for a lot of these vulnerable students who are dependent on that space at recreation. When we had the armory, the city was able to use it for events and for basketball tournaments and to do things with that function space. But without that function space having heat, we can't use it at all, and the entire half of our building remains unused. So it's really important that with Bank Street Armory being a major loss to our community, that we're able to invest in this building, that was really giving back to the community and investing in some of the most vulnerable students that we have. And like I said, I just want to note, something that we use it for is our mental toughness space. It's our orientation program at Youth Build, where we invite 60 to 70 kids. And when we had the armory and we had the gym and we had the space, the program worked a lot better and it was a lot more effective. But without that space, we're kind of cramped on the one side of the building that we're in now, that 45 Rock Street space. So with this boiler and with these CPA funds, we can really start turning into the community center that we know it can be, that the armory kind of lost for us, and that we can kind of rebuild, but only if we can heat that building. So I would really urge you guys and implore you guys to support the CPA funding. It is incredibly important because of the work that we're doing is incredibly important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person has signed up to speak, final person Ann O'Neill Souza, 351 Kenyon Street, regarding the STAR project.
Good evening, Council President, members of the council. Just here briefly this evening, just to come down before you and ask the council, either individually or collectively as a body, to go on record with your feelings about the proposed expansion of the Stanley Street Resource Treatment Center that's being proposed in the north end of the city in our waterfront area. There's a lot to talk about either way, and I know that there's plenty of time left for discussion before this goes before the zoning board in November. But STAR promised us a transparent process when they started these plans several years ago, and to date, there has not been a meeting held by STAR to tell us what they are proposing and what they are not proposing. We all know that the opioid crisis in this country is awful, and how many individuals and families are affected on a daily basis with this issue, but Fall River already has 2 methadone clinics here in our city, and we also have an inpatient detox facility here in our city. We just need to know where our elected officials stand. We hope you will stand with us. I am a resident of the north end of Fall River. It's not just a north end issue. It's not in my backyard. It's asking an agency that already is in this city and already is providing service to please look at other areas that are also affected within the Commonwealth by this opioid crisis and look to them maybe to be an answer and help Fall River so that we are not the only community dealing with this. It's draining our resources, whether it be our hospitals, our schools, our police department, our EMS, our fire departments. They're already overworked, and I just believe the expansion of this facility in our city is going to adversely affect us in a way that we're not going to be very pleased with. So I just look forward to you being part of the discussion and weighing in with the zoning board if and when they go before them again in November. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes citizens' input. Next item on our agenda is a loan order, Government Center roof replacement for $1.3 million.
Council President?
I'm
Any
sorry.
motion to take,
Want to do the citations?
yes,
Well, I'll entertain that at this time.
19 through 23?
Motion to take items 19 through
23.
23 has been made by Council Vice President LeBeau.
It's not in finance,
Yeah, we're not in full council yet, but
just- you can just do
we could just do the, you could just do the citations. We're not in full council, but you can go do that now.
I'd like to ask some folks to join me at the table. Beth Fonts, John Perry, Sergeant Burt, Lucy Vitorino from Hearts of Hope, and Bay Cove Health. Chief, did you want to join us? Do you want to join us? Did I see Director Oliveira? Do you want to join us? Thank you. So for everybody here, my colleagues and everybody watching, during the summer, there was an altercation at an area that many of the residents and our first responders know as Tent City. And because of that altercation, it kind of put a spotlight on the many, many homeless individuals that live at Tent City. And unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe in this case, because these folks were able to help a lot of people, the owners of that land asked that those homeless residents be vacated immediately, which is really not an easy task. However, we happen to have some wonderful people in the city that step up all the time to help not just our homeless residents, but all our residents. They help with anybody in crisis over and over again. This will be my second time giving a citation to the ladies from Hearts of Hope. My second time giving a citation to Miss Beth Fonts, who, when asked who helped relocate the residents and offer them all of the services available to them, named all of these folks, and as usual, doesn't mention the work that she does, which is over and above countless hours all the time. So I'd like to ask either the director or the chief if you'd like to say a couple of words.
I know you've heard this many times from me, but I'm always proud to be the chief of this fire department. And the reason I'm so proud is because of people like this, especially Beth Fonts. Because without them, the fire chief really has nothing. And I hope the citizens are just as proud of this fire department and public safety, police officers, as I am. Because this is what they do for the citizens of Fall River. And that's everyone. And I like to say a little something about Beth because she's near and dear to me. We've been co-workers for many, many years now. And Beth's work ethic is outstanding. It's very large. And anything that's bigger than that is her heart because she cares for everyone. And I know that she's one of the first people in work every day, and she's probably one of the last ones to leave. And she also has surrounded herself with a great team, just as I have. So, Beth, from me, I'm proud of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I know she thinks, and she is going to help me hand out these citations because she has a lot to say, but I'm just going to read the one that we have for Beth. It's an official resolution, be it resolved that the City Council hereby extends its commendation to Beth Ann Fonts in recognition of leading with compassion and going above and beyond to assist homeless individuals transition out of Tent City and encouraging them to take advantage of expedited community reservice. Be it further resolved that the Fall River City Council extends best wishes for continued success and that this resolution be entered into the records of the City Council, adopted September 25th, 2018, unanimously.
I'd like to say a couple of words about Sergeant Stephen Burt, and I'd also like to say thank you to both the police chief and the fire chief. When I came to them and told them that we were tasked with this mission and asked if we could have this support because that's the way it's supposed to be, we were very fortunate to have their backing. But I was also very fortunate to have Sergeant Burt, who was willing to spend hours and numerous phone calls and on his own time to come and help me accomplish this mission and make sure that everybody was safe. So congratulations, Sergeant Burt. John Perry. Mr. Perry, 50,000 phone calls and never once didn't answer the phone with a smile on his face. He was able to accomplish the surmounting task of getting Tent City so that it's clear and there's no trash and it looks good and we have a secure gate, and we were able to get everybody together and make sure that all of that was not a hazard for anybody that had to go in there. So I can't thank him enough for his support in this mission. We couldn't have done it without him. Hearts of Hope, Alicia and Lucy, are the biggest homeless advocates that we have here in the city of Fall River. And this particular mission, we had to advocate both on the side of the city and advocate on the side of the homeless to make sure that they were safe and accommodated for. And they were able to come down and help me explain to the people that were there the seriousness of them having to get out of there. And they certainly, I couldn't have done it without them. The homeless trust them, and they advocated on the city side, so we can't do it without them. And they have a tough season coming up, so thanks, Hearts of Hope. Bay Cove Crisis. I met Julie Sanders at a meeting, and she didn't realize she'd be hearing from me so quick. We wanted to make sure that we advocated for everybody and to make sure that nobody went into crisis and to make sure that their mental health was secure, and we wanted to make sure that they were going to be safe. And these two people went into the woods with me, never met me before, and they advocated and they talked the talk and they walked the walk, and I'm very proud to have them behind my back. You always have to surround yourself with good people to have a good team and to have a good leader. And from the city administration, the police chief and the fire chief and all these people, we were able to make sure that all these people are safe and cared for. So it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a loan order for Government Center roof replacement for $1.3 million. Madam City Administrator, Mrs. Sadi. Or anybody else who's here on this item? That's it. If I may, and I believe it'd be appropriate for the city administration to be here as well, we have some individuals from the elections office that are here to speak about item 5, which is a communication from the mayor and a loan order for new voting machines for $280,000. There's also vendors here. Can we take this item out of order?
Yes.
Certainly.
Motion to take item 5 out of order has been made by Councilor Joseph Kamara. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. If individuals for this item come on down, if any vendors are here as well for this item, feel free to come down to the floor this time. Good evening.
So, Mr. President, members of the council, while they're getting set up, there are only two machine systems that have been approved by the state of Massachusetts for utilization by the cities and towns. This particular system is the one that our elections personnel felt was the most advantageous and would actually serve our community best. So this is the system that we are recommending, and we did want to be able to show it to you here this evening.
If you could just take a microphone, please. Just-
Oh, this one? Okay. Hello, good evening. My name's John Lento from Election Systems and Software. Thank you for allowing us to show you our system today. I have a tough act to follow after the group that was just in front of us, so thank you. We've been a vendor here in Fall River for greater than 20 years. You're using our current voting system. We call our legacy system. And what we're going to show you today is the next generation of a voting system, okay? We just turned it on, plugged it in, and it's kind of simulating what a poll worker would do on election morning. Plug it in, open up the cases, and within a couple of minutes, it's going to be ready to start voting. And what we've learned, we've been in the business for 40 years, over 500 employees across the country. We've learned that it's a good thing to make voting systems as simple as possible, especially for the poll workers, to set them up in the morning and get ready for voting. So what we're going to show you is how to set it up, which we just did by plugging it in. And then we're going to run some ballots through it and show you how easy it is to vote and show you some of the features of the system. Okay, so I'm going to help Roberto up here. My assistant here is Roberto Reyes. He's one of our technicians who lives in the state and services the units. And we're just going to get it going. Yeah. If you don't mind if I can stand up.
Sure.
Paper ballots, like is what you use now. The difference is, I believe you guys fill in an arrow, right? You draw an arrow. Here you fill in an oval, just like an old high school SAT test. You fill in the oval to make your choice. The system helps the voter if they make a mistake. So if they didn't make a choice or they made too many choices, the screen is designed to help the voter understand what they didn't do right on the ballot. If they did everything right, the ballot just goes through. So we're going to demonstrate that right now.
Mr. President,
C7, Mr. Pelley?
you think we could have a ballot so we can see the ballot?
Absolutely, yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Early voting?
Yeah, why not? We finished.
Actually, let me get some ones that are blank.
Bringing a lot of recalls. Recounts.
Yeah, you can vote if you want. If you want to vote, we can run through the machine. Do that too. Excuse me? Right? No, we're not checking you in or checking you out. We're just going to give you some ballots.
I don't think we all need ballots.
What's that?
I don't need ballots.
Okay. Would you like one? Sure.
So this is, sorry. This is a demo ballot. It's not a real ballot with candidates on it. We have favorite things like your favorite car and your favorite beach and your favorite TV show, things like that. So it's a fun ballot that we use for a demonstration, okay? Right now, the machine is ready for voting. And you can see it took about less than 3 minutes to set that up and get ready for voting from a unplugged state to plugging in and turning it on. So I'm gonna vote a ballot real quick, and I'm gonna put it in the machine. Unless you got one, Roberto. All right. If you want to fill in a ballot, you can do that too.
Do you need a specific pen for that?
Good question, yeah. It's a regular medium black ballpoint pen. Any black Bic pen, you can buy them in any store. There's no special requirements except we prefer black. You can use blue. You can use pencil. You can't use red, yellow, greens, highlighters, things like that. Okay.
Councilman C2.
Mhm.
If someone puts a check mark in the oval space, does it still register as a vote?
The system is designed to see any mark in the oval, including a check mark or an X. It tries to read it, but if there's not enough black in the oval, it rejects the ballot. We call that an unreadable mark. So we recognize that there's something there, but we'll reject the ballot if there's not enough of the oval filled in.
And does the rejection happen while the voter is still there, so they have opportunity to correct?
Yes, exactly. So again, the large screen is designed to interface with the voter.
The machine we currently use now does the same thing.
Right, but it makes a lot of noises and prints a lot of things out that somebody has to look at. In this case, it's more interactive. The voter's looking right at the machine, okay? So, right, you would go in the voting booth, which we have an example of over there, fill in your ballot, and then walk up to the machine. So I'm going to do that right now. Just. Hold on, let me. So, demonstrate it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Here's mine.
All right, so we. I want you to do it. I'm going to just do some talking. Okay. Hello. Okay, so one of the questions we always get asked is, can the ballot go in any direction? And yes, the ballot can go in any direction. We're going to just keep feeding ballots in, and we'll see if we have any issues as we go along with how the board has filled out the ballots. Okay, so here's a mistake. Don't take it out yet. Here's an issue where the ballot came back, okay? And what it says is that there's possible errors on the ballot. And it tells the voter standing here looking at this, and it says you have possible errors on the ballot. In this case, it says it's an unreadable mark. So the voter has to take the ballot out, and usually a poll worker will help at this point. And on this ballot, I see a little mark through the oval, not a filled-in oval. So the machine recognizes that and spits the ballot out. And depending on how the ballot was marked, this could be corrected or it could be spoiled, okay? So if you can see here, in this corner, we show you how to fill out a ballot. And I always like to use the analogy of who has played lotto, who's played the lottery, right? And you go in the store and you fill out your lottery card, you got to fill in the space that they give you. You don't circle it, you don't check it, you don't put a little line through it. You have to fill the whole thing in, or else you're not going to get your winning ticket, right? It's the same thing with voting. You got to fill in the oval, and the instructions are right there to do that. Okay. We got more examples?
So if the ballot is rejected and the voter chooses not to correct, will the other choices on the ballot register, or is the entire ballot
Yes.
disqualified?
In this case, this was a total reject, which means there's something on the ballot that the machine can't read, and it totally rejects it. In a more classic case, the voter has either overvoted or undervoted. And in that case, the machine's gonna hold the ballot and tell you that, but it will count everything else that's not done incorrectly. All right, and we'll demonstrate that too. Can I have one of the ballots? Okay, I'm gonna spoil Leo's ballot here. Whoever filled out Leo's ballot or wrote in Leo. Leo, the favorite dog breed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in where it says vote for 1. I'm going to fill in 2. Okay, and every other contest that's filled in correctly will count. But here's what the real what our system really does if you put that in. And this is one of the things we've learned. This is one of the things we've learned over 40 years of doing this. You never want to touch a voter's ballot if you don't have to, okay? So in this case, where you have an overvote, the machine actually holds the ballot inside. It doesn't come back out. And it tells the voter on the screen that you've made too many choices in one contest. All right, so eventually the voters will learn this as they use the system more and more, but we train the poll workers to recognize this as well. And the poll worker can come up and say, well, John, it says that you voted too many times in one contest. So you can, there's 2 buttons on the screen. You can return the ballot or you can cast the ballot as is, okay? So in most cases, if the voter really wants a good vote, they would return that ballot. The poll workers would spoil the ballot and give that voter another ballot and show them that they can vote again, okay?
Councilor C2, Councilor Kamara.
So when you put that ballot in, I didn't hear the machine make any noise.
Yeah.
It just appeared on the screen.
Yes.
So I can tell you, if I put that ballot in the machine, I'm walking away.
Right. And again, we train the poll workers to make sure
I
that
have to stand by there and make sure that everything was in okay.
what we
Can you
tip.
activate a beep so that when it has that ballot,
When-
it'll notify the person as well? Because if they hear a beep, it's okay.
Right. When a ballot's rejected, it does beep. But when it's querying, it's asking you to make sure that your ballot has an error like this. It does beep. We can program it to reject it. Yes, we can do that.
I'd be better off, because if not, they
Yeah.
can walk away, the poll worker can say, okay, yes, put it back
Well,
in. and then
what we do in training is we try to train the poll worker that, I'm gonna just cast this ballot. So it goes in. But there's a thank you screen and then what we call the welcome screen. We try to train the poll workers to say, make sure there's a welcome screen at all times after the voter's left. Okay, because if you don't have that screen, the next voter can't vote. So, it gets picked up pretty quickly. After like one election, they realize, okay, I see what you're saying, and they keep the voter there. And it's less than 5 seconds for the voter to vote.
Yeah, that's a long time. Right now, they're out of there in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Put it in, they walk away.
Right. Well, it actually takes longer when you have ballots that are rejected all the time, because,
Look at them.
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, in most cases, the voter fills in the ballot correctly.
You're still gonna have to look at this one if you spit it back out. So it's gonna take the same amount of time.
Right.
It's rejected. and
But
you
it's giving the voter a chance to fix the ballot and vote correctly.
No hanging chads.
No hanging chads, no. I worked that election, by the way. I lived in Palm Beach County for that election, but, did you have a question, sir?
Hold on one second. Councilor C2 still has the floor.
Okay, sorry.
So, right now, though, the voter can do the same thing. The voter can say, cast the ballot anyways. It
Yes,
doesn't matter.
that's correct. Yeah.
I just don't like the fact that they're not being warned that something is wrong with their ballot and they can see it. Because if they put in, the machine's calculating and reading, trust me, they'll be able to tell us, they're not gonna get to see if it's okay or not. It's okay.
Well, again, we can.
Right now, the ballot, if there's something wrong with it, it spits it out immediately.
Right.
It goes right in, it comes right back out, and they're right there.
Right.
And it shows them, and they pick it up, and they don't know what's wrong with it, and that's when the person comes over and tells them.
Right.
Which is what's gonna happen here. If the person's gonna tell them, wait to see if it's okay, might be a problem.
Yeah. Well, again, we can spit it out and reject it. The machine is fully programmable to reject, to query, which is what I demonstrated, or to accept
If
any
it comes
condition.
back out, they can use the same ballot as we didn't put it back in, and once they fix it, right, go back and fix it?
You can't fix an overvote. In other words, if you pick 2 in the same contest, you can't fix that because,
So what happens?
so that's a spoiled ballot.
They don't get, do they get another one? or-
Yes, you have 3 chances, typically, yeah.
And one last thing.
Yes,
Do you have some kind of sleeve to provide to this so that people will put their,
Yes, we have privacy sleeves, yes. Yes.
do you recommend people use them or not?
It's really up to the voter. A lot of times, this ballot is two-sided. A lot of times, the ballots in Massachusetts are one-sided, so there's nothing on the back side. So the voter tends to, they tend to hold it so that the blank side is up, so nobody can see what they did. Yeah. But we do have privacy sleeves as well.
Especially if someone's gonna be standing over the machine, making sure that it's all right for polls, we should have privacy sleeves.
Right.
Everyone should get that ballot inside a privacy sleeve like this, like they used to.
Right.
do at the times, and give it to them, they get there, they open it up,
Yeah.
they vote, they put it back in the privacy sleeve.
We can do that, yes.
Just wanna make sure it's available.
Mhm.
Thank you. With that, I yield.
Counselor in seat 6, Counselor Long.
The undervote works the same way?
Undervote, again, is programmable, but typically you don't, an undervote per contest, we ignore. Yeah, we accept it, because then you're forcing, if you have 10 contests on a ballot, you're forcing the voter to look at every single contest. And, if it's a presidential election, I only want to vote for the president. I don't care about anything else. And if you reject it or query it because they didn't vote everything else. Right, that's right. Yeah.
You yield, Counselor? Counselor in seat 3, Counselor Kamara.
Just on the mechanics, you said that a poll worker would be available to make sure that the screen says welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the poll worker in that process? I assume if this is the machine that voters are going to be approaching to slip in that ballot, is the poll worker going to be standing right there watching people slipping their ballots?
That depends on how they set up the polling place. Usually there's a check-in table and a check-out table.
Right.
And it's placed strategically so the voter is between, the tables and the machine. So the poll workers doesn't have to stand next to it, but they can watch the voters and make sure that
Generally, in the system we have now, is after you've checked in and then you vote and then you check out, then you've got the system that sort of sits like that, and where Kelly is sitting is where the poll worker is, so she's not going to be able to see the screen from where she's sitting. So how do you keep track of that screen and still maintain the integrity of the privacy of the voter?
this does not show any.
I don't know, I
Right.
thought I asked you a question I couldn't answer from somewhere.
My associate here.
I'll appreciate your answer.
Okay.
Please.
One of the things we don't show on the screen is what you voted for, how you voted. Okay, we don't show any candidate information. We show that you overvoted in a contest, but we don't show you what you voted on. So you're never seeing the ballot. So the privacy is maintained because the ballot is being held in the machine.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
once you're sliding the ballot in and you've taken it out of your privacy sleeve and you're putting it there, if the poll worker is standing where
Roberto
is
Yeah.
standing,
Yeah.
he's going to be able to see who you voted for.
No.
Why not?
Because again, we don't show anything. We don't unless you're holding your ballot up.
Yeah, if you're holding your ballot up, and as most people tend to do, they hold the ballot, once they're ready to slip it into the machine, they slip it in, face side up, so if there's just one race,
You can do it face side down too, though.
I know you can,
Yeah, right.
but voters are not necessarily inclined to do that, I think.
Right.
And some might, and some, but I just don't see it as a very private system.
You can also put up privacy sleeves on the side here, curtains. It's like a plastic hard curtain.
But as long
Yeah.
as one of the primary purposes of the poll worker is to watch, to make sure that the welcome screen is visible, then that poll worker has to be positioned in a place where he's constantly watching that welcome screen.
And you can do that without looking at somebody's ballot.
Well, I know you can,
Yeah.
but a lot of people won't.
Right. Well,
A lot of curious poll workers, they want to know who you voted for.
yeah. Well, and that's kind of why we try to keep the ballot in the machine so the poll worker doesn't have to touch the ballot. Looking at the screen is not looking at the ballot.
I understand that,
Right.
but I don't think you understand my point.
No,
When you're approaching the ballot, when you're approaching the box to put your ballot into the box, and if a poll worker is keeping an eye on that screen, he's also, or she's also going to be very easily able to view the ballot as it enters into the machine. and there's nothing that's preventing that. Whereas the system now, the only time that the poll worker is gonna get out of the chair
As if they hear the beeping.
is if they hear the machine sending off a ding, and they have to go look and see what the problem is.
Right.
But if you're expecting the poll worker to keep an eye on the screen to make sure that welcome, please insert your ballot is always shown, I think that compromises the integrity of the process.
Okay. And I appreciate your concern, but getting back to this gentleman, we can turn the beeping on so it will always beep if there's an issue with the ballot. We can program to do that. This is a basic setup that we use all over Massachusetts, actually all over the country. But we can change it. It's very easily programmed.
Another question.
Yeah.
You're familiar with ranked choice voting?
Yes, I am.
Is this system usable in a ranked choice voting process?
The state of Maine just did ranked choice voting in June, and I was the person that managed that project. So
With this kind
with
of
the same machine, yes.
So what happens then? You don't have an oval? Do you have something that's bigger? A box?
No, it's still the same type of setup. It's an oval. What you have is, if there's 5 candidates running that you're ranking, you list the candidates in a row, and then in a column, you have 5 sets of ovals, like a grid. And you would pick the first candidate in the first column, and then you'd rank your second one in the second column, third, fourth, fifth. The actual work is not done by the machine. The machine just sees it as an oval that it has to find, just like any other ballot. The work is really done on the back end, on the system that counts all the results.
It has to be programmed accordingly.
Right, so you would feed in all those ballots, all the results get fed into a second system post-election, and that does all the calculations for ranked choice.
Do you also work the Cambridge system?
We don't do Cambridge, no. We did show that to them, but they chose the other vendor in that case. But the state of Maine has done it. They did it in June. They're doing it in November as well.
Because Cambridge has a ranked choice voting process?
It's very similar, yes, yeah, to what Maine does. There's not a lot of systems at the precinct level that do the ranked choice calculation right then, because you really have to have the whole, when you're talking about governor, you have to have all the state's ballots. You have to have every ballot across the state to make that calculation for the ranked choice. You can't do it at a poll or a precinct level. You have to do it at the state level. So everything has to be fed into a database to make those calculations.
But if the city of Fall River, as an example, moves into and has, because I think eventually, it's probably going to be on the ballot in the next 2 or 4 years. There'll be an opportunity for local communities to opt into ranked choice voting.
Right.
The system is adaptable to do that.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Yeah, the back end of the system, I mean, we're showing you what happens at the polling place, but at the end of the night, when you close the machine and it tallies up all the votes, it's all done on a memory stick, and those memory sticks are brought back to usually City Hall and fed into a computer system to get all the results from all over the city. Right.
Okay, thank you, I yield. Thank you, Mr. President, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor in seat 4, Counselor Kilby.
Yes, just a couple questions. 364 cities and towns in Massachusetts, how many do you have? Because you have one competitor, obviously.
Right. There's 30 communities now using this system, and it's most of the larger communities. New Bedford being the closest to you, Braintree, Somerville, Chelsea, Revere, Worcester, who's our largest.
30?
We have 30 customers using this system right now.
You know
yes.
about your competitor.
They have about over 100 using their system.
So what, I want to put you on the spot. You're here to represent your company, but I'm here to make a choice.
Yes.
What are the major differences?
Well, the first major difference is we've been in the business for 40 years, 500 employees across the country. And like I said, this is actually it's our 3rd generation voting system that does this type of work. We also do other voting systems that are touchscreen, a little more advanced than paper. But our biggest feature is that we've been in the business for 40 years and we're a very large company. We're not going anywhere. We plan on being here for a while. We're more geared to the larger communities like Fall River. A lot of the municipalities in Massachusetts have one polling place, one precinct. We have some of them as well, and we're happy to work with them as well. But the larger jurisdictions tend to pick us over the smaller ones. We also service actually every single community in Massachusetts because of the ADA requirement. There's another machine that does the ADA, satisfies the ADA requirement, where if a disabled voter, sight impaired, they can't see a ballot, they can't fill in a ballot, so they have to have an ADA device to do that. And we actually have that device in every single one of the 351 Massachusetts communities. So we service those as well. Yeah.
I'll go, question, yeah, 1 minute, please, Ms. Ferris. To the commissioner, congratulations, I think you mentioned before. Important for me, when our former mayor, during his transition process, I had the honor of interviewing Ms. Camara, but could you refresh my memory in terms, I know there are two, but she had a preference.
This one here.
It was this one, okay, so that's important for me to know.
The other one that we had looked at, when we did it, and we had an interview at one of the conferences, we looked at the other, and we didn't care for it because the machine, when you put it in, it actually kind of shows the ballot and shows on the screen. I think that's what the difference is between the two. And we didn't like that because it was in front of everybody, you can see that. And I think this one is much more efficient than what we have right now.
Right.
I mean, the other one's been 20 years that
Exactly.
we've had it.
I definitely see the need during budget time. I believe it was myself and I think Councilor Joseph Camara brought up the importance of this and the integrity of our elections and technology and how we had to borrow machines from Somerset, things like that. So I'm totally in favor of it. But not having your competitor here, I wanted that question answered from
That was
our
the big
elections
difference
officer.
for
This
us.
is the one that Ms. Camara was in favor of.
Yeah, that was the big difference for us, was the fact of the screen, we wasn't too keen on that.
Mr. Council, Kathy, you want to say something?
No, I did want Ms. Kelly, we're going to go with Kelly, okay. I did want Kelly to respond to that because when she and Mrs. Camara looked at it, they had a very clear preference, and again, it was the feeling that if the ballot shows up on the screen, it speaks to that privacy issue again. It's facing out so people can see it, whereas this one is more private. So they felt very strongly that this was the preferred machine.
Very good. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you. If you overfill the oval, is there a problem with that?
Do you mean go outside the lines of the oval? No. We have a very small target, and the idea is that the small target allows you to fill in less, so you're not filling in a big circle. But if you go outside that circle, it's okay, as long as you get inside the circle as well.
All right,
Or oval.
at the end of the night, you have a printout on paper?
Yes.
On paper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They usually stick that, okay, you got it there.
Right.
They usually stick that in the window and
Mhm.
everybody's, okay.
Yeah.
Now, the price of this, the boots go with it?
What you see here is the complete system.
That's it?
Yeah, it's roughly $5,700, but there's discounts and, we trade in your old equipment and.
Okay, and how many are we buying? Kelly?
There is 29 wards and precincts, so we have the 29, and then there's 4 spares.
4 spares, okay, that's what I was looking for.
Without the, just the equipment, not.
Just the tabulator would be the spare.
Yeah. Now, you got some precincts that could virtually have 2,500 voters. Is that all in one compartment?
Yes. This
How many can that hold?
will hold over 3,000 ballots.
3,000.
Yes.
But they're not gonna pull them out?
They don't need to pull out, if it's less than 3,000, they don't need to pull them out. They can stand there all night. Yeah.
And at the end of the night, computer, how long does it take? You press a button?
Yep, you simply press one button, it starts printing out reports, and depending on how many candidates are in the election, that's how long it takes and how many reports you want as well. We program the amount of reports. Most people need at least 2 reports. They put one on the window, they give one to somebody else, and maybe there's a third one. All the reports print out automatically. So all the poll worker does would be to open up the, get the key? The poll worker would open up this door, press one button, just like that, press one button, and that closes the machine, and then the reports start printing out.
All right, I've been involved in many recounts with some of my colleagues here. And could they do a recount by the machine, or can they do?
It's up to the state how the recount gets done, and typically, from what I understand, the state, because they actually did one recently up north for the primary, they have to physically count the ballots. They don't use the machines to do a recount.
So
Can you use the machine to do a recount? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, but it's up to the state statutes on how they do a recount.
So they could do a recount,
Yeah.
Every precinct, every ballot, and
Yeah, you would simply take the ballots,
yeah.
and usually there's some kind of sorting. They put them in stacks of 50 or whatever they do to make sure the right amount of ballots are there. And then you could simply put them right back through the machine, start from 0 again.
But it's almost like Chad's, if you can look at it, did they vote that way, didn't vote that way?
That-
Is it hanging, did they?
That's why they don't use the machines to do it. They want to look at the ballot because they're looking for voter intent is what it comes down to. So if you have a voter that says, I'm picking Roberto, and they fill in Roberto's oval, and then they go, wait, no, I meant to pick John. So they cross out the oval, and then they pick John. And that's an overvote, right? Because 2 ovals are filled in. But when you look at that ballot, you're saying, oh, I see what they meant to do. They made a mistake, so they crossed out the ballot, and they filled in another oval. So the vote might go to that person in a recount, right? The other thing that happens is instead of filling in the oval, like I talked about with the lottery, if you don't fill in they circle, or they put a check, or they put a check next to the candidate, or they underline the candidate, right? If you don't fill in the oval, the scanner doesn't see it, so it won't count it. But when you're looking in a recount and you see that somebody circled the name, the intent of the voter was to pick that candidate, but they didn't fill in the oval, so the machine didn't count that. In a recount, you may count that.
So the total price is, Kelly?
The price for everything?
We provided a quote to Kelly.
The machines is $175,229.98. And then there's another $12,945, and that's for the maintenance and licensing.
It don't come up to, don't come up to 280.
Oh, then there's the booths.
The boot?
Booths right there.
Oh, I didn't think the boots go with it.
No, that's a separate, the gentleman that does that, he couldn't be here today, but we've had this booth now for a few years. It's 4 booths in one, so we use less booths. So it goes like in a circle, so there's 4 there. We have 1 handicap for each one. So we would use less booths, so there'd probably be 3 or 4 per precinct, depending on like the big ones would, like TNZ and Calvary Temple would probably get 4. Right now, we have 244 booths that are in good condition. They are, most of them we're keeping together with tape. The flaps that come up, the legs are broken. They're not in good condition. They're not in good condition, but they're in operable condition for right now. We cannibalized all the other booths that we have down there just to fix the ones to keep them in operation.
So how many of these you getting?
We're getting 27, and that includes, it's the 3 up, 1 down. One of them is handicap accessible, so there'll be 1 at every booth in every precinct. And then we have 73 more, which are, there's 4 voting spaces.
You like the system?
Yes. That one, and the total cost for this is $88,380. It'll be less for DCM, because they help us every election. They help us set up, take it down, and this will be more for them, be less having to, we rent U-Haul trucks to send the voting equipment to the places and take them back. And it'll be less on on having a rental of the truck too, because it's less space as opposed to stacks of individual booths.
Very good. Long time coming. It's about time, and it's only $280, so that's good. And you're gonna start with the new job, with new machines, and I better win the election. I yield.
The voting,
Thank you. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
Thank you, Mr. President. What's the warranty on these machines? I don't know if you said that or not.
So you start with a 2-year warranty, which is included.
It's manufacturer's warranty, too.
Yes, yes.
Is there an extended warranty that you can get?
Yes, after the 2 years, you can choose 3 different levels of warranty.
How expensive are they?
I don't have that information. Is it in the quote? I think it's in the quote. Can I see that for a second?
You're the manufacturer, or you're the sales representative?
Unfortunately, I'm not the salesperson. The salesperson couldn't make it today. I'm the account manager for the state. But let's see if we have here. Yes, okay. So we recommend that the highest maintenance, which we call the gold standard, is $6,000, just over $6,000 a year.
For all of the machines?
It's a 1 year. So after 2 years, you're covered for 2 years. After that 2 years, you choose which package you want. The gold package is $6,105.
Only for 1 year?
1 year, yes. So after the 2 years, you get a 1 year maintenance that you pay yearly.
For $6,000?
Yes, for all the machines, not just one, for all the machines, all 33 that are included in this quote. Can we provide a copy of the quote to the?
They have it.
Okay, all right. Does that answer your question?
I guess it does.
Yeah. There's lower levels, so the gold means we come every year and we do maintenance on these machines. Whether they're
How long has the machine been in existence?
we around 2008 we started using this machine in different states.
Did any cities in Massachusetts buy the system yet?
This system? Yes.
Machine?
Yes. That's the 30 I was talking about earlier.
What's the oldest that the state's been out there? In 2008, did any city buy it?
No, I think New Bedford was the first.
How long have they had the system?
And that was probably 2012, was it? Yeah. Sorry, I don't have the exact, but New Bedford was the
Can you
first.
service that account as a technician?
Yes.
How many problems have they had with their machines?
The only problems that they had
You got a microphone, please.
The only problem that we noticed was some communities, they use certain people to transport their equipment, stuff like that. Just a little bit of,
Damaged in transportation?
yes, that was it. But that's like on the outer side. It had no effect on the performance of any of the equipment.
So New Bedford has not had any issues with any of their
No,
computers in the
no.
last 5-6 years?
No. We provide yearly maintenance and any type of troubleshooting and repair, we're right there. But not that I can remember, and that's my account.
Counselor, Ms. Susie Young also did references and did check with communities that were using the system, so we can give you an update on that as well.
Things do break occasionally, but again, you got a 2-year warranty. So if anything breaks within that 2 years, it's replaced.
How is that transported? In one piece, or does that top part come off?
It breaks down.
It breaks down. It's 3 pieces.
So you carry that separately?
Yeah. Yeah. We can demonstrate that quickly if you want. Okay.
I just want to make sure, so what do you recommend, that they break it down and carry it separately, or they carry it all together?
The best way is how we brought it in today, which was all together. If you can get your DPW or whoever transports, and that's what some of the communities do, they just put it on a truck just like we brought it in today.
And then just roll it off and roll it up?
Right, yeah. But this top piece, I'm sorry?
It's kind of top-heavy, though. It looks like it can fall easily. You guys came down a little
Right.
simple ramp.
Yeah, there's a way to do it, and we didn't do it. You pull it by the side instead of the side we were doing. I didn't even realize there was a ramp there, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah. But you're right, it is top-heavy.
Trucks that they're going to be transferring, they're going to have a bigger lift than that.
Yeah. What a lot of other communities do, sir, is they do separate them. So, in a lot of places, they just keep the bottom bin at the polling place because there's nothing you need to worry about as far as, there's no electronics in this. It's just a box, yeah. So you can keep this at the polling place. And then this, when this comes off, it actually has, it works like a suitcase. It has a suitcase arm that comes out, a handle, and it has wheels, and you can wheel it. And then once the cover's closed and everything's locked, it's totally secure.
And housing needs, these are stackable.
And what do we get, 30 of them?
You're getting 29 plus 4 spares, is that it?
29 total machines. 29 total machines, 4 of just the top piece, the actual machine, and 29 of the whole unit. We carry, when we do it now, the Optech, the police bring it in that morning. So we'll probably have it the same way.
So you have the bins there
So
already?
we have the bins there already.
Yeah.
We deliver the day before, and then the police bring in the
part.
actual top part because, you know, we just rather have it secure.
All right, with that, I yield. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mrs. Silveris, any further recaps here? I think the council's done with their questions. Motion to refer to full council has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. Any discussion on the referral? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Can't rig the system, can you? President said the elections are gonna be rigged.
It really comes down to testing. So we test everything that we do. The way the system works with Massachusetts and ES&S, we program your elections at ES&S. We test them at ES&S, then we give them to you, and then you test them to make sure they work, okay? So any corruption or any hacking or anything like that is usually physical unfortunately on this end, that hopefully you have processes in place that take care of that. And most communities do a great job. It's all about reconciliation. If you gave out 500 ballots, at the end of the night, you should see 500 ballots in the box. If there's 2,000 ballots in the box, something was compromised, right? So those are the things you do, and most communities, cities, and towns have a good system in place to take care of that. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a loan order for Government Center roof replacement. Madam City Administrator, Mrs. Sahadi, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Council President. In front of you is the loan order for the replacement of the Government Center roof at $1,300,000. This was as a result of your request to have an estimator come out and look at the roof and give us a better estimate. That's in the packet you received a few weeks ago. As you know, the roof here at the Government Center leaks very badly when we have a rainstorm. And based on our most recent research with Mr. Gallagher, who couldn't be with us tonight, although it's been repaired, it's never been replaced. So it's been there for 40 years, so it's time to replace that. So we're asking you to approve a loan order for $1.3 million for the roof replacement.
Councilor C2, Councilor Kamara.
Just want to point out that that's a loan order, but it doesn't necessarily indicate the cost of what it's going to cost to replace the roof. We're going to put these out to bid when we decide to do it, and then have a competitive bid process to make sure that we'll get an accurate cost of what the contract.
That's correct, Counselor, and we will not borrow the money until we complete the project.
Motion full council, that's appropriate?
Motion to refer to full council has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. Any discussion on the referral to full council? Councilor, I didn't see, I'm sorry, Councilor in C7. Councilor in C7.
I don't understand it. You missed me.
Councilor in C7, Councilor Pelletier. Do you have a question?
How soon, if the loan order is, we get the money before we start this project?
We're hoping as long as we get this approval, we will go forward with it this fall.
This fall?
Yes, Counselor.
You mean the fall? We're in fall now.
Fall now,
And,
before the winter.
how many buckets we got to sell after that?
Quite a few.
Yeah, we're gonna get good money for that. Okay. It's about time, you know. Yeah, leak there, and, we need it. Let's do it.
Thank
I
you.
yield.
You have Councilman C2, Councilor Kamara.
Are we doing this roof as well?
Yes, Counselor, both full roofs.
Thank you, with that I yield.
Thank you. Any further questions on the referral? Councilor C3, Councilor Kamara.
Are we doing the fire stations and the government center right now?
They are two different loan orders, Counselor.
Okay, I'm asking though, what are we voting to refer now?
Right now, it's the refer of the loan order of $1.3 million for government center roof replacement.
Okay. So be it.
Any further questions? I do got a quick question. Is it a normal process to not obtain bids before you get loan orders? Is that the process usually?
Actually, Mr. President, we usually will get the loan order approved to be sure that we're going to go forward with the project, and then we go out to bid. The council had asked the administration to get an estimator involved to try to do a better job at determining exactly what the amount of the loan order might need to be. And so this $1.3 million is based on the estimator's professional work regarding what he feels it will cost. But as Mrs. Sahadi mentioned, once we go out for bid and we secure a contractor, we'll only be borrowing the amount necessary to complete the project. If we end up with excess authorized capacity, then we'll be back to you to address that.
Thank you. Any further questions? On the referral, full council has been a motion that has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is a loan order for the Globe Street and Flint Fire Stations roof and door replacement for $500,000. Mrs. Sahadi?
Yes, Counselor. So Globe Street and Flint Street, again, are two of the fire stations that need roof replacements. The Flint Fire Station was 1988, and I guess the Globe Street, no one could go back as far. It's at least 50 years old, so there was no records beyond the 50 years, so I'm not really sure how old that one is. So both roofs will need to be replaced. As far as the doors go, they are going to be high-tech electronic doors, and it is, if you look in your community compact as well as in the estimator's records that we provided to you, each of the fire stations will be getting these doors in time, but we decided that it would make sense to do Globe Street and Flint Street at the same time that we do the roofs.
Questions? Councilman C4, Councilor.
No, I would just say it's nice to see that we're keeping up with a lot of our infrastructure that has been, let go for many years, especially, you said the roof is 40 years old here, so I'll make the same motion to advance to full council.
Motion to refer to full council has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Councilor C3, Councilor Kamara.
Yeah, just on the doors, on the Main Street, Bedford Street Fire Station, which is the main station, when those doors were replaced, there was no sensitivity to have them be consistent with the rest of the structure. So they sort of stand out. I think they're white doors on a building that really shouldn't have white doors. Is there someone that's looking at the purchase of these doors to make sure that just aesthetically they're compatible with the buildings that they're going in? Who's doing that?
Mr. Gallagher would be.
Okay, well, I hope that he takes some sensitivity. Don't do what we did on Bedford Street. I'm sure the garage doors, like every other place, can be different styles based on the style of the building. So I know, many people think that architectural integrity is not an important issue. It's an important issue to me. So I just hope that when the doors are selected, there's some sensitivity as to there being the right door for the building that they're going in. I yield.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, motion to refer to full council has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4 is a loan order for public safety, microwave community network, and video surveillance equipment, $550,000. City Administrator, Mrs. Sahadi.
Yes, Council President, this is, as you indicated, a $550,000 loan order. It's really broken down into two parts. In your packet are quotes, so in this case, we do have the quotes. $326,000 is for the networking, and $196,000 is for the video equipment. There are several spots within the city that are dead spots, and the police chief is recommending that we provide this additional communication via a network in order to pick up all of those dead spots within the city.
Additionally, councilors, the current system is using the old Verizon copper lines, and Verizon has determined that they are not going to continue to maintain those lines. So the city will be forced to make a choice in the near term to either upgrade to a Fios or a different type of network through Verizon, or again, to go through the microwave technology that's before you. And the monthly cost for the Verizon lines is going to become substantial when we have to convert to their new technology. So this microwave technology is, we think, from an operating perspective, going to be more cost effective as well. And as Mrs. Sahadi mentioned, this is not just an audio, it's also a video capacity. So the surveillance cameras within the community are also going to be able to be allowed transmission over this microwave system as well.
Councilor in seat 4, Councilor Kilby.
Yep. Forgive me with a simple question, but could you define what a dead spot is?
An area where we're not currently being able to pick up the transmission using the current technology that we have.
You must have a lot of dead spots.
The chief is here, and he could probably tell you where they are, but there are dead spots within the city.
That's not necessary. I could talk to him privately. So, okay, I yield.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. The first question I have is the loan order just speaks to the purchasing of public safety communication network and video surveillance network equipment. Is installation any, who's going to be installing this? So is that included in this? Okay.
Yes, it includes installation, Councilor.
Okay. The other piece, just in terms of the microwave system, I know there's obviously dead spots, especially when you get into some of these older buildings. I just take a nod from the chief to make sure that we've checked all of our, at least our public buildings, so all our school buildings, to make sure that we've got the necessary with this microwave system that we can be able to communicate better in those spots as well. Is that accurate? Okay. He nodded yes, so with that I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 6, Councilor Long.
Is this compatible? I know that we just converted the fire communication systems to a radio communication system with the boxes in the public buildings. I just want to know that this is a compatible system with that. Yes?
I understand that they will be able to utilize it, but I'd ask the chief to come forward on that. Chief Lynch. Okay.
It is compatible, but there are basically two different systems what we're talking about here. This microwave system has to dealing with our radio system, the portable radios, the mobile radios that we communicate to one another. And the system I think you're referring to, Counselor, is our fire alarm system, our box alarm system, which is a radio transmission system.
Do you have any dead spots with that system?
We haven't found any yet. And what's good about it is the more boxes that come online, because this is a web-based system, each one's connected, so it gets stronger and stronger.
Picks different, goes to.
Yes, yeah.
I yield.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, there's a motion to refer to full council has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Next item is item number 6. It's a resolution to discuss the cable TV contract and options for residents. It was adopted and amended on 4/24/18. Mrs. Viveras?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I do want to commend at the outset from Fall River Cable, Renee Kochman is here, and Renee can certainly speak directly to you regarding the efforts that he and Keith Tebow from Bristol Community College have engaged in to try to get consultant services on board to assist the city when we ultimately start active negotiation. Actually, this contract is expiring in November of 2019, so we still have time, but they took the initiative to already start having stakeholder meetings to start getting the community's input regarding the kinds of things they might like to see negotiated into the new Comcast contract. The one thing that I would tell you, and this was consistent with the consultant that they retained, is that the community does not have the ability to negotiate rates. Those are rates that are set by the state. We do not have the ability. I know many residents, even when they attended the stakeholder meetings, felt that the cable costs were too high, that the rates were excessive. We were cautioned that that's not something that can be negotiated within the contract, and coupled with that would be any kind of discounts for certain populations. Again, the rate-related items are really set outside of the cable contract. And if you'd like to get into more information regarding the stakeholder activities to date, I'm sure Mr. Kotzman would be happy to join us at the table.
Councilor in C7, Councilor Pelletier.
Well, she hit what I wanted to talk on, and it's nothing you can do about it. A lot of people complain about the price, and I have mentioned it 2-3 times, and it's a no deal. So all we're going is for the contract, and that's it.
There are other elements that can be incorporated, Councilor. Certainly, we want to make sure that they provide service to all locations within the community. That's something that can be negotiated in. We want to talk to them perhaps about special ADA services that might be available to the community. So that might be something that we could speak to them about. And but again, we are limited when it comes to the rates that they charge the consumers. And I would add that it's very difficult to get another competitor into the market. I don't know if it's unspoken, unarranged, or otherwise, but our vendor is Comcast, and they are the ones that the community in Fall River will be utilizing moving forward. So,
it's a shame when you can buy a car cheaper than cable TV. That's bad. But
Mr. Kotzman, would you like to come forward and just kind of, because you've spent a lot of time on this, and I think the council would benefit from hearing about the activities that have been ongoing, and you may be able to also further address the kinds of impacts that we can have in negotiating the contract.
Good evening, councilors. My counterpart over at BCC, Keith Tebow, and I had some meetings regarding this, and we began a process of getting public input and having some surveys done, which you may have even received. Some of the things that are important for the council to consider, and obviously as we move forward, our funding for operating the channels and actually delivering the services of the government channel, all the meetings we cover, all the programming that is done, not only on FRG TV, but on Fred TV and also FRC Media, are all funded through the contract. Those funds are derived by a pass-through that cable customers will pay 25 cents on their bill. All those funds go to actually funding what we do in terms of delivering those services. So some of the things that we can look at and possibly negotiate are potentially the delivery methods, how we access different areas of the city with fiber and cable. We can look at the infrastructure, what's actually being used right now. I know many of the concerns that we have are related to the actual delivery of the services. Presently, when you click on your remote and you go up and down the dial, you see all of these channels in HD, and they look beautiful and they look great, but when you get to the council meetings or the school committee meetings or FRC Media's programming, all of a sudden you're watching television from the 60s. What's that?
In some instances, that's okay.
That's okay. I'm a big Gilligan's Island fan, so yeah. But in today's day and age, the viewers have become a lot more critical. All of us have. And I see it even with my students that are now working in HD TV. They don't want to look at old television anymore. It's a lot clearer. So those are a few of the things that we've been talking about. I think the administration has opened the door to us in terms of garnering our input and our support, and I think they're going to support this moving forward. So we're really at the beginning stages of developing a wish list, what we would like to ask for. The funding is critical for us. We can ask for additional percentage. Right now, we receive 4% of the gross revenue of what cable gets. We can ask for the additional 1%, which is capped now by the state at 5%. And then additionally, I think it's really the infrastructure. It's the cables the fiber optic cables that are put in the city, connecting the schools, connecting City Hall to the police stations, the municipal buildings that are connected to the network. That's really what we're looking for in terms of being upgraded.
Councilman C7, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Kochman and Mr. Tebow, I know the prices are high, but you do a good job. You got a good crew. All the people that I work over here with, the girls, the guys and everything else, very, very nice. And you do a good job and a good service for the city of Fall River. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yield, Councilor. Councilman C4, Councilor Kilby.
I guess my question's been answered by Ms. Viveras and Renee, but I remember when, under Mayor Lambert, he tried to push very hard for a discount for our elderly and disabled. And I think it went as far as he refused to execute the contract for some time. I think if you remember, Ms. Renee, maybe even 2 or 3 years. So I still think it's an effort worth trying. They are a monopoly. I don't know if the administration under Ed Lambert actually filed a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, based on fee structure and our inability to negotiate due to the fact that they're the only deal in town. So just some thoughts. It'd be nice to see, as Council Pelletier said, a discount for our elderly and our disabled. But as Council Pelletier said, Renee, you do wonders, especially with the kids. You've been around so long, and I just very respectful of what you do every day. So thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Councilman C2, Councilor Kamara.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I also agree. You guys do an outstanding job. I know that you cover basically everything public in this building and every meeting. Is there any meetings, public meetings, that you do not televise?
Possibly, I think, the library board meetings. That's probably one that stands out that we don't cover.
It's probably the only one you don't cover. You just read about that. Because I think you do a lot of, you covered basically every public meeting that takes place in this building and the school department and all of their subcommittees as well. And do you do a lot of the school committee subcommittees?
We do. We do all those
It's amazing
subcommittee
how
meetings.
much work you guys do and all the interviews. Do they provide you any of the equipment at all? Cameras, any other equipment?
We actually share all the equipment, and when it's a larger project, we work with our counterpart, and Keith is quite helpful with supporting us with everything that we do.
Does Comcast provide, like, if you need new equipment, upgraded equipment? I know we bought some stuff for the council chambers to make copies of the CDs and DVDs.
Yeah, that all comes from the funds which we receive from
But that comes out of your
Comcast.
budget from the funds.
Yes,
It doesn't-
yes, it does.
Can't we get, do they not provide with that type of equipment, or is that not something that they would do?
That is up to us to determine what we need, and then we purchase it, yeah.
With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor in seat 8, Councilor Viveras.
Just one question. I understand that we're not involved in negotiations of the rates. I wonder if we have any ability to have discussions on limiting or capping an increase in those rates.
Again, Counselor, I mean, the rates are really not within our control. There hasn't been any conversation about that opportunity to do that. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a competitive environment, and so we really are subject to, rates that are approved for the one vendor, and they obviously are going to charge as much as they're allowed to charge, by the regulatory group that oversees them. So, again, we really don't have a lot of alternatives.
Just as a point of clarification, Mrs. Rivera says I sponsored this resolution. I guess my point of information or question is, what is stopping the city from being able to make this process a competitive process with other vendors such as Verizon or Cox, like other municipalities have done, similar to what West Warwick has done in recent years?
Again, Counselor, everything we've been told is that one of these other entities is not willing to come in to this area. It may be an investment in infrastructure that they're not willing to make. It may be professional collaboration. I'm not sure, Mr. Kochman, you may have an opinion on that, but.
It's a huge capital investment for Verizon to come in, and basically what they need to do is start from one location and run individual cable wires to every single house in the city, probably upwards of $100 million, maybe even more than that, to do that. That's a huge capital investment that they would never recoup in rates or in payment. And they have no guarantee of subscribers buying into it.
So they've said no when we've approached them, obviously, because of the cost? I don't know if anyone formally has ever approached them. However, if they felt the market was there for it, they would have explored it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Motion to table has been made by Councilor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item 7, Community Preservation Committee request for emergency funding for Greater Fall River Recreation for $78,480. This item is already in full council, by the way, for our vote and discussion tonight. So no referrals needed for subcommittee, but this is an appropriate time at this point to ask questions of the administration. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pelletier.
All right, I guess the money is absolutely needed, and CPA has already agreed to give them the money?
Yes, Counselor, it's been recommended by the CPC to provide them with this emergency funding.
And the vote tonight would guarantee how soon before they get the money?
CPC would then be able to put you'd approve the appropriation order tonight,
Yeah.
and it would be up to the CPC to expend the money to them for the boiler.
All right, well, it's like winter's coming, so it's like we move on this tonight and maybe a couple of weeks I can get the money? No? Yeah, well, no, you're all set with CPC, right?
Well, they're the ones that would expend the money, so they would write the check.
Yeah, but they
Right.
already agreed to give it to them.
Right.
Correct.
So, there's no problem. Let's vote, give them the money, and let's keep that place warm. I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. In seat 6, Councilor Long.
Has the RFP gone out on this already? Have you ready to go? You already got the quotes?
I yield.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Motion to adjourn? Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Stephen Kamara. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Gonna go right through. Fall River City Council meeting will now be called to order. Madam Clerk?
Here.
Joseph Kamara?
Here.
Stephen Kamara?
Here.
Kilby?
Here.
La Liberty LeBeau? Long?
Here.
Pelletier?
Here.
Viveras?
Here.
President Ponti?
Here. If everybody in the chamber can please rise for a moment of silence, and I ask that everybody can keep in their thoughts and prayers Phil Sabatino during the month, for this moment of silence. His passing was 1 year ago today. Thank you. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, the first item before you are requests for the confirmation of appointments to the Commission on Disability. The first is for Debbie Pacheco.
Motion to approve?
Reappointment.
Motion to approve and confirm has been made by Councilor Kadim.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion?
Do we need a motion to waive? Is she a city resident? or-
She is.
Okay.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And the second, item B, is the reappointment of Kathy Ann Viveras also to the Commission on
Motion
Disability.
to adopt?
Motion to adopt and confirm has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Discussion, Councilor in seat 5, Council Vice President LeBeau.
So I have a question on this. I spoke with the member of the Disability Commission that it does require someone from the city to be on the board. However, it's also a conflict with the charter.
Pardon, I didn't hear you. What?
Is this on? So Mrs. Barris obviously works for the city, so the city charter says that this isn't allowed, but I also spoke to the Disability Commission that has a city employee as a member of the commission. So what do we do in this case? Which is correct?
Madam Clerk, have you had any discussion on this?
I have not, but we have received, previously, we received an opinion from the judge, and there are other members, city employees who do serve on various boards.
Because of the makeup of the board by
Yes.
that committee? And does that supersede the charter?
That was
Want to waive the rules? Mrs. Viveras seems to have some information on this.
Motion to waive the rules.
Motion to waive the rules has been made by Council Vice President LeBeau, seconded by Councilor Pelletier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Vice President, you still have the floor.
The charter does have a provision for waiver that the mayor can grant to allow a city employee to serve on a board as well. No such waiver exists on the residency issue, but clearly on the issue of employees serving. I do serve as the mayor's representative on the board, and the Disability Commission had specifically requested that I continue in this position. So.
Right, I just want to make sure that we're following the charter, and I know I did speak to them, and it's their rules specifically say they need a city employee on it.
So there will be a waiver issued if the council approves.
Thank you, I yield.
Any further questions?
Well,
Councilor in seat 1, Councilor Kadim.
I was going to ask the question. I know there was some other committees, CPC, but that's stated by Massachusetts general law that various department heads have to serve, or people in certain capacities have to serve on that committee. But did you say there was a waiver in the charter?
Yes, there's a provision in the charter that the mayor can provide a waiver to allow a city employee to serve on a board.
With the councils. With the
Yeah,
councils.
well, obviously, you have to approve the appointment. Yes,
Correct.
Mr. President, correct.
There'll be a motion to approve pending waiver.
You want to make that as a motion? Councilor in seat 1 still has the
That's
floor.
appropriate.
I yield.
You yield. Councilor in seat 4, your motion?
So, proper motion, I guess, would be motion to approve pending waiver.
Signed by the mayor?
We vote, so I don't know if I phrased that the
Mo-
right.
So there's a motion by Councilor Kilby to approve the appointment.
Motion to table pending waiver by mayor. I'm sorry if I'm going too quick.
So do we want to?
Point of information.
Councilor
Can
in
we
seat
just
1?
get this?
Looking for some guidance.
Councilor in seat 1?
Just as a point of information, can we just get the section of the charter that states that there's a waiver? If you have that, just.
Want to do we'll do a
I
quick
have the
recess?
charter.
Do a quick recess. 2-minute recess.
Do
will now be called to order. Madam Vice President, you still have the floor, but before you get the floor back, I'm just going to remind everybody that under page 50 of the charter, it does speak of limitation of office holding. Doesn't speak specifically to boards, but I can read what was discussed. Unless otherwise allowed by law or by the charter, no person shall simultaneously hold one or more city office or position of employment. This section may be waived by the mayor upon the appointment of a person to additional office or position of employment by filing a notice of waiver with an explanation and justification with the city clerk. Any hours worked in any part-time position shall not be the same or otherwise conflict with the hours worked in a full-time position. Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim.
That's simply a position, a job. So you can't be a custodian and a police officer. I don't know about an actual appointment to a board, which I wouldn't consider a employment position, so.
Just reading what was referenced to me.
Has a petition been filed for a waiver?
Madam Clerk?
No, we simply have the appointment letter.
So we have,
Confirm the appointment.
Move to approve the appointment has been made by Councilor Stephen Kamara. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Pelletier. Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim. Discussion.
So the waiver is just based on what you just read?
Point of parliamentary clarification.
Counselor in seat 3.
It's our duty to either confirm or not confirm. Once confirmed, then it's the mayor's responsibility to seek the waiver. So I would just suggest that we do the first step, confirmation. If he doesn't submit the waiver to the city clerk, then the appointment is null and void. That's the way.
Counselor in seat 1.
Just, yeah, I don't disagree with that, but we also took an oath to, uphold the city charter, so I think we should be making votes based on what the city charter says. And if the city charter says you can't have an employee on a board, then why are we taking a vote? I mean, and if you need a waiver, we should have a waiver. Again, I don't think we ever follow any procedures whatsoever, but I won't.
point of order,
I won't be supporting this.
point of
Counselor in
order,
seat
I have
4.
no problem supporting this, but in a spirit of, from my understanding what was read, I think the waiver has to be filed first, then we confirm. It says a written waiver. I'm pretty sure that's what you read. A written waiver has to be filed, and it hasn't been filed. I'm going to support it, but I just want to do it the right way. So I yield. I'll make a motion to table.
Counselor in seat 5, Council Vice President LeBeau.
I
Is that a
still have
motion,
Motion to
Counselor?
table.
Is there a
Do I still
motion?
have the
Counselor in seat 4, did you just
I did.
file a motion to table?
Yes, I do.
There's a motion on the floor to table that has been made.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kadim. Roll call. Sorry, it was a motion to table.
On the motion to table, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Joseph Kamara,
No.
Stephen Kamara,
No.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Pelletier,
No.
Viveras,
No.
President Ponti.
Yes. Motion failed?
Motion fails.
Motion failed. Counselor in seat 2, Councilor Kamara.
Thank you. So the board that we're going to appoint or not appoint her to specifically says that a city employee has to sit on that board, correct?
No.
It's a policy.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that the charter says that no city employee can sit on any board. Therefore, the charter is very vague, or this is, it doesn't make sense that the board you're appointing a city employee to, the charter is saying no city employee can be a member of any board, but yet this charter requires that one appointee be a city employee. Therefore, as my colleague in C3 has said, let's just do our job here today. Regardless if he gets a waiver or doesn't get a waiver, let's just either appoint or not appoint based on what we believe. But if they're telling me that the board and the chairperson recommends this individual who serves there now as a city employee, has served there as a city employee, and we need to put some city employee there, whether it's this person or someone else, let's just take that vote, because that's what it's required to do. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 1, Counselor Kadim.
Thank you. Can I just ask for clarification? What is it that states a member of the city has to serve on this board?
When the board was established, there are different, it has to be composed of,
Bylaws.
I think a majority of the members have to have a disability. There's one member that has to have a family member with a disability, and there is.
So it's just a
city
bylaw of
employee.
the actual
It's an
commission?
ordinance. It was the ordinance
Oh,
that
it's an actual,
established.
it's an actual ordinance that states that. I yield.
The Assistant City Clerk is going to go and get the legal opinion that we had previously from Corporation Counsel.
Thank you. Questions? Counselor in seat 3, Counselor Stephen Kamara.
Yeah, clearly in section 912, limitation of office holding, it reads that this section may be waived by the mayor upon the appointment of a person or to an additional office. So upon the appointment, which is our confirmation authority, then it's the responsibility of the mayor to issue his waiver. So it is, I think we're following the right procedure by confirming tonight, and then the mayor then needs to submit his waiver upon our confirmation.
Okay, we need a motion. We don't have a motion on the table.
It's already
Counselor in
on the
seat-
floor.
There's no, oh, yeah, you're right, correct. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
So I just want to state that earlier my colleague in seat 1 said, and I agree with him, that we should uphold the charter because we're elected and sworn to uphold the charter. But we were also sworn to uphold the ordinances of the city of Fall River, which is an ordinance. So therefore, like I said, we should just vote whether we want to appoint this individual or not, and then let everything else follow its course. Gets complicated when we try to do the job of too many people. With that, I yield. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor to accept. Counselor in seat 6, Counselor Long.
No, I just see this fairly simple. If you go by what the ordinance says, we appoint, the mayor issues the waiver and states his reason for issuing the waiver, and his reason for issuing the waiver is that there's an ordinance on the book that says an employee must serve on the board. It's done.
Let's do it.
I yield.
There's a motion on the floor to approve that has been made and seconded. Roll call.
To confirm the appointment, Councilors Kadim,
No.
Joseph Kamara,
Yes.
Stephen Kamara,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Viveras.
Yes.
President Ponti.
Yes. Next order of business.
The next order of business is the mayor, communication from the mayor and a resolution for the proposed amendment to the central market rate housing incentive zone and plans for the former Lincoln School located at 439 Pine Street.
Move to accept the communication, place on file, and adopt the resolution.
Motion to accept, place on file, adopt the resolution has been made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilors Kadim,
No.
Joseph Kamara,
Yes.
Stephen Kamara,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Lullaby LeBeau,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Pelletier,
Yes.
Viveras.
Yes.
President Ponti.
Yes.
Item number 3 is a communication from the mayor in an agreement with the Stonebridge Fire District for dam services and raw water purchases.
Motion to refer to Public Works.
Motion to refer to Public Works has been made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 4 is a communication from the mayor and the Community Preservation Committee's request for emergency funding for the Greater Fall River Recreation in the amount of $78,480.
Move to accept the communication and approve the request for funding.
Motion to accept the communication and approve and adopt funding has been made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counsel Vice President LeBeau. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries.
We have the official election results from the Board of Election Commissioners for the
Motion.
September 4th election.
Accept and place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file has been made by Counselor Kadim, seconded by Counselor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the Traffic Commission making a number of recommendations to amend ordinances.
Motion to refer to ordinance.
Motion to refer to ordinance has been made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Items 7A and B are urban renewal plan. 7A is the plan for the downtown area.
You want to take downtown first? I will say this for the council's own edification. Under the waterfront urban renewal plan, there was a communication received from a resident that indicated that he wants to be removed, or he or she wants to be removed from that list at 115 Anawan Street. Not sure what the council's thoughts on that is, but I would probably make it the suggestion to refer to the Economic Development and Tourism Committee on that one, at least for B. That's just my position. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we should refer both of these to the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, because when these people were here before us last time, we asked if there's gonna be more public hearings or more input from the people who abut this property or own property in this thing, and I was under the impression that there was gonna be some kind of interaction with these individuals or something being sent out to them, and I think there's more than one individual that wants to have their name removed, their property removed from this plan, and I don't know that they've had the opportunity to do that. So I think we should at least have a meeting and refer to the economic development and see whether or not people want to come forward and have their property also removed before we adopt it, because I think that's the right way to go.
Okay.
With that, I make that motion, refer to Office of Economic Development.
Second.
Motion to refer the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, both items A and B, has been made by Counselor Joseph Kamara. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Kilby. Discussion on the referral. Counselor in seat 6, Counselor Long.
I would just be very, very careful with these urban renewal plans about removing certain properties or individuals. The urban renewal plan is what it is. I would hate to see a bunch of money get invested when somebody removes their property from being taken, and ends up getting the benefit of all the urban renewal that goes into it, which would then raise the price of their properties, and they get the benefit from that without participating in the urban renewal. So, you know, it's a tough one, I get it, but it's an issue I think that deserves discussion. But I would just be very, very careful about just approving people who want to be removed. I yield.
On the motion to refer, Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
Thank you. I think my colleague in seat 6 brings out an excellent point, and that's why we should have these meetings, so that people understand fully the impact of what is going to happen to them, whether their property is on this list or gets removed. I think not enough people who own property in these areas are fully aware of what the circumstances are entirely. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Counselor in seat 3, Counselor Kamara.
I know this may be a bit of a burden, however, I do believe that when the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism, assuming that this is referred to that committee, that an invitation ought to be extended to every property that is on that list for possible acquiring through eminent domain. I think there are many people, probably some people at least, that are on that list that don't even know that they're on that list. And I know there were other people that attended meetings and they were shocked that they were on the list and felt they couldn't do anything about being on the list. So I encourage when the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism meets, that they invite every address, at least a letter to every address that is in the proposal for possible acquiring through public process, eminent domain.
Counselor, if I may, the planning board did notify, there was a public hearing, all properties were notified, as did the city council. In addition to that, there was a letter that was prepared by the city planner and sent to all parties, and there was more than a 30-day time frame in which people could get back to either the planner or my department with any concerns, and we only received something yesterday. I realize it's already been referred to that committee, and that's fine, but I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you. I attended both the planning board meeting and the council meeting when this was adopted. And although, in fact, what you just said is true, that people were invited, they came as observers. There was no welcoming opportunity for them to approach the table and to find what their rights were in terms of being excluded from the eminent domain process. So I think that what we can do now as a city council, and what our Committee on Economic Development and Tourism Committee can do, is practice some sensitive outreach to these people, to let them know that not only do we want them to attend a meeting, but we want them to know that their rights are that they can submit 2 being withdrawn from consideration for possible future eminent domain. So I support the motion to refer with the proviso that when the meeting is held, that all these people be invited. Thank you, I yield.
Counselor in seat 5, Council Vice President LeBeau.
To the city clerk, were those 2 meetings after it was in front of the council? And after, I remember specifically Counselor in seat 2 making a point to have everybody invited for those 2 hearings after that?
The planning board met first, council met after the planning board had already met, and then a letter went out subsequent to the city council hearing.
I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor in seat 2, Counselor Kamara.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, just when they met here in front of the council, that was the first public hearing that was
That
held?
was the second.
That was the second. Okay, because it was the first one that I think many of those people even realized, and as my colleague in seat 3 said, I don't even think they realized it was a public hearing where they could participate. It was more like an information type situation. That's the reason I think we need to put this in committee, because there are a lot of people who, although, maybe they should have known, didn't know, and want to get more information. So I don't think there's a rush to this at all. As far as I know, there's not a rush to it. We can vote on this at the next meeting if we can have that meeting in between. So I think it's wise that we put it in committee. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? There's a motion to refer to the Economic Development and Tourism Committee that has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That's going to be with items A and B. Correct, Counselor?
Yes.
I have a number of recommendations for the acceptance of streets. We have Bell Street extending from Corbett Street to a dead end, Estes Lane extending from Lark Street to Old Lower Stafford Road, and Linwood Street extending from Mariano Bishop Boulevard to the dead end.
Motion to adopt A, B, and C.
Motion to adopt A, B, and C has been made by Counselor Kilby.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And item 9 is the planning board's recommendation for the discontinuance of Kennedy Street extending from Stevens Street to Route 24.
To adopt?
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby. Seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Counselor in seat 6, Counselor Long.
Was there a reason for that? Excuse me.
The petition that was received is asking that, I guess there are issues in that area with burglary, and they have safety issues in their neighborhoods, so they were asking that that portion of the street be discontinued.
The city planner is here, by the way, if you want to ask him. You want to waive the rules? Motion to waive the rules has been made by Counselor Long, seconded by Council Vice President LeBeau. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
That portion of the street is an accepted way, but it's unimproved. So if you went out there and looked, it's just grass and trees. And the reason they wanted to look at doing that is a lot of people going down, safety concerns from what I read from the petition, dumping, and it's going back into their backyard and it just dead ends to 24. And from reading the petition, it looks like some people going down to that dead end and Mischief. So they wanted to look at incorporating that within their, discontinuing it and incorporating it into their property, and that's the recommendation from the planning board.
So they're gonna improve it, the city still own it, they're not selling it to anybody. They can do whatever they want there, but it's still city property.
Does someone have the floor?
Counselor seat 6 has the floor.
I thought I had the floor.
That's what I just said. You're in seat 6, and if you can turn your microphone on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't get that complaint once that people can't hear me. No, I'm just saying, it's not gonna change who's owning the property. We're not doing any improvements to the property. But the people who live there can do whatever they want, but there's no,
Well, if you discontinue it, the city doesn't own right-of-way, very few fee ownership in right-of-way. A right-of-way is essentially an easement for the purposes to pass and repass for the city to put in utilities, roads. There's a utility line in there that the community utilities request an easement. But other than that, if city council voted to discontinue their right in it, then half of the street of all the abutting properties would go to each abutting property, and then the only thing that we would require would be an easement for our utility line. So it would actually be incorporated into the various properties on how they agree.
For use, but not ownership.
Not ownership.
The ownership would be in the fee to the people. The city does not own the underlying fee. We only own, we would be relinquishing a right-of-way, which is only an easement. We don't own the fee in it. We only own the easement, so, which is the right-of-way. So that's what we would be discontinuing.
No, at the present time, it's a city street, it's just not paved, it's not. So we do own it. If we wanted to go down there and put tar and sidewalks, and we could do it.
Correct, under the right-of-way, but we don't own it, a right-of-way, we don't own the fee in it. The underlying owner is still the abutting property owners. Right-of-way is not an ownership in fee. There's no deed to that. The underlying ownership typically goes to the center of the street, to the center of the right-of-way. The right-of-way is an easement.
I get an easement, but this says the discontinuance of Kennedy Street, not Kennedy Street easement. It's Kennedy Street. This is city property.
Point of clarification, is Kennedy Street an accepted street from the city?
Yes.
So he's right.
So if you give it up, we're not giving up the ownership of this. They have the right to use it. We had one down here that was over next to, and the guy was using it, came down, we said we can get this done, and they did all kinds of things, and then we sold it to them for whatever, came back, sell it to them for $10, $100, whatever. But this is still a city street. We're not, and I'm saying, once we give it up, the discontinuance of the street, we still maintain ownership of that property. It's not a right-of-way. It's a paper street. It's still, but if we give it up as a street, my question is, and maybe it's not to you, maybe it's more to Corporation Council, what happens to that property? We're not just giving it away.
Well, then I recommend that you would table it and have Corporation Council weigh in on that, because my understanding is that a right-of-way, a street or right-of-way, the underlying fee owner is the abutting property owners.
Second.
That one.
Motion at table has been made by Councilor Joseph Kamara, seconded by Councilor Stephen Kamara. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Item number 10 is a communication from Marilyn Edge, the Tobacco Control Coordinator. She's just requesting the opportunity to appear before the Finance Committee to discuss changes in
Motion to
tobacco
refer
sales.
to, motion to refer to finance has been made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Long. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Have the proposed ordinance for miscellaneous traffic for passage through second reading and enrollment.
Be appropriate to pass through second reading and enrollment as a motion. Is there motion to pass through second reading and enrollment has been made by Councilor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The proposed ordinance for passage through second reading and enrollment that relates to the Vehicle Trade-In Revolving Fund.
Motion to pass through second reading and enrollment.
Motion to pass through second reading and enrollment has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And for passage through second reading and enrollment, the Police Cruiser Revolving Fund.
Motion to pass through second reading and enrollment has been made by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 14 for passage through second reading and enrollment as amended is the ordinance that relates to the Commissioner for Recreational Facilities.
Motion to
pass through second reading enrollment
As amended would be appropriate.
as amended.
Motion to pass through second reading and enrollment as amended has been made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Move adoption citations 15 through 23.
Motion to take items 15 through 23 has been made by Counselor, is that your motion, Counselor? Take all of them together?
Yes, sir.
Motion to take items 15 to 23 together have been made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adopt would be appropriate.
So be it.
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Counsel Vice President LeBeau. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Have the order granting permission to Cindy Doan at 177 Nashua Street, Unit 2, to remove curbing at 19 Marble Street.
Any objectives?
No.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to
Second.
adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have the order granting permission to Harry Leachman at 966 Ray Street for the removal of curbing at that same location.
No written objections.
No written objections.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to
Second.
adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And 26 is the order granting permission to Jan Long for removal of curbing at 539 Stafford Road.
Same motion?
Any objection?
Written objections?
Hearing no objections, Counselor in seat 4 has the motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The police chief's report.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kadim,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Have the renewal of an auto repair shop license at 1741 Stafford Road on behalf of Paul Faria, doing business as A&R Auto.
Motion to adopt would be appropriate. Motion to adopt has been made by Counselor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Number of claims.
Accept and place on file?
Motion to refer to Corporation Council would be
Refer to
appropriate.
Second.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council has been made by Counselor Long, seconded by Counselor Stephen Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I have a request from the Fall River Holiday Parade Committee to request 2 banners on Government Center.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt and approve has been made by Counselor Kilby, seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 31 is also on behalf of the Fall River Holiday Parade Committee, and it is to place 2 banners. One is at Bedford Street at Central Fire Station, and the second at South Main Street at Center Place.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt and approve has been made by Counselor Long,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And item number 32 is also a request to place a banner, and this is on behalf of Baker Signs, located at Broadway. This sign was for school.
It's
For
another-
Stanislaus School
it's
on
another
Rockland
location.
Street.
What is it for?
St. Stanislaus School on Rockland Street.
Got it.
Just, Madam Clerk, how
Is
big
there a motion to approve first?
Motion
Just
to
wanna,
approve.
before you approve, how big is the sign, 40 by 30
Tested me,
again?
huh? He tested me. It's not 40 feet. It's only 24 inches by 72 inches.
Thank you.
Motion to approve would be appropriate.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve has been made by Counselor Long,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Pelletier. Discussion? Counselor in seat 3, Counselor.
A 24-inch by 72-inch,
They have.
How many feet?
and where is that going to be? Is it going to be hung over a street?
It's on the Broadway portion of the property. It's, I guess, on the sidewalk, on the outer part.
Okay,
on
so not on
Broadway.
the street.
No, it's actually on their, part of their property.
There's one there now.
So be it.
Motion to approve that has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
We have city council minutes. The first is for public hearings held on September 11th.
Motion to approve has been made by Councilor
We
Kadim.
approve all minutes, 33 through...
Motion to take items 33 through 35 has been made by Councilor Stephen Kamara,
Second?
seconded by Councilor Kilby. All those in favor? Nobody's in favor of it? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to approve items 33, 34, and 35 has been made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
And item 36 is a notice of casualty and loss to a building at 3960 North Main Street.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council?
Motion to accept and place on file would be appropriate. Motion to accept and place on file has been made by Councilor Long, seconded by Councilor Vice President LeBeau. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It would be appropriate now, Madam Clerk, to lift the Tansy Elementary School from the table.
Motion to lift
Yes,
the
Mr.
table?
President.
Motion to lift Tansy Elementary School loan order has been made to lift from the table by Councilor Kilby, seconded by Councilor Stephen Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt has been made by Councilor Kilby,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Councilor in seat one, Councilor Kadim.
So this was tabled for a reason. What, did we rectify the situation?
We need to waive the rules and ask the city administrator to come down and
Motion to
clarify
waive the
that.
rules.
Motion to waive the rules has been made by Council Vice President LeBeau, seconded by Councilor Kadim. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam City Administrator, Mrs. Sahadi, also Mr. Pacheco and Mr. Almeida from the school department are here. Councilor in seat one, Councilor Kadim still has the floor.
I'm sorry, what, can you refresh my memory why we tabled this the first time? It was at the request of the administration, so I don't think.
It was, Counselor. So before you at the last meeting was Tansy and Watson, and there was a little bit of confusion as to the 51% rule.
Yeah.
As you know, the ADA information or the ADA parts of the project were going to put the Watson over the 51%. Mass School Building separated the two projects. Tansy by itself stands alone and is well over the 51% reimbursement, so that one is going forward. As far as the Watson goes, they are reworking the schematics and the design of that, and potentially in front of the ADA board to get waivers on certain of the ADA projects with regard to Watson.
Thank you, I yield.
Any further questions? Hearing none, there's a motion to adopt that has been made and seconded. Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thanks for coming down. I seen you in the audience, I didn't want you to just sit there.
Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, could we take items 4B, C, D, E together?
There's a motion to take items 4B, 4C, 4D, and 4E together.
Second.
That has been made by Councilor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Councilor Kilby. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in, yeah, we are going to, committee reports. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Move to adopt the loan orders for 4B, C, D, and E.
Motion to adopt 4B, 4C, 4D, and 4E has been made by Councilor, after reading by the clerk, has been made by Councilor Stephen Kamara, seconded by Councilor Long. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you can read them for the record.
The Committee on Finance, at a meeting held on September 25th, 2018, voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying loan orders be referred to the full council for action. And those would be Government Center roof replacement in the amount of $1,300,000, Globe Street and Flint Street Fire Station roof and door replacement, $500,000, Public Safety Microwave Communication Network and Video Surveillance Equipment, $550,000, and new voting machines, $280,000.
There's a motion that's already been passed that was just read into the record.
Could I
Any-
just, quick question.
Point of information,
order
Councilman
for
seat
the,
one.
So the last vote we took was just a voice call. Did we need a roll call for that
Need a
one?
roll call?
Tansy,
Tansy?
for Tansy.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on record with a?
I didn't know if there was a requirement for the for the
Because
loan
it's
order.
No, it's
appropriate money.
unanimous, so
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't mess anything up, that's all.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Counselor. We're going to have nothing further besides a brief recess, Madam Clerk?
yes.
Brief recess, thank you. Orvis City Council meeting now called back to order, Madam Clerk.
We have before you for final ordination, the Commissioner for Recreational Facilities. This would be as amended. Passed to
Motion.
be ordained as amended. You've passed it through second reading and enrollment. Now this is the ordination.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Joseph Kamara. Discussion?
Aye.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
And also for a final ordination, we have the Police Cruiser Revolving Fund.
So moved.
Motion to approve the revolving fund has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Joseph Kamara. Discussion?
Aye.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
The Vehicle Trade-In Revolving
So moved.
Fund.
Motion to approve has been, the vehicle trade-in has been approved by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Joseph Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in
Aye.
favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
And
So
finally,
moved.
miscellaneous traffic.
Miscellaneous traffic has been approved by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Joseph Kamara. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn has been made by Councilor Kadim, seconded by Councilor Kamara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Motion is, meeting's adjourned.